point. Now, Jarvis is equally as veteran of a player as Slash is, maybe a little bit less, but still has a very familiar pedigree that a lot of people would understand. Though I think you could argue that Slash has had a lot more accomplishments than Jarvis so far. But Jarvis's personality isn't the same, and I think he will vibe a lot more in terms of personality with the LG guys, but what does he bring in terms of leadership? We'll position ourselves now to look at the veto system. So Clubhouse, Consulate, Villa, and Border. We haven't seen Kafe played at all today, and we've only seen Theme Park once. So these are two things to keep in mind. As we continue to go, Theme Park goes out, LG doesn't want to play it, Coastline removed, and Kafe is removed as well. Now, you might notice that there's no Bank in the map pool. Bank has been taken out in favor of Theme Park in case you are just tuning in. And additionally, the auto ban is now gone, so teams will be banning all 3 maps rather than have a random map ban or based off of a previous week. So that's another change as well that adds more flexibility. However, Michael, out of the 8 maps played today, we will see 7 maps plus Clubhouse played a second time. That's not bad for diversity on the first day.
Not bad at all. I am still missing Theme Park. I haven't gotten introduced to it yet in a competitive format, so I wish we had gotten to see that today. Alas, it did not happen. Maybe in the future. But Kafe is a reliable and I'd say solid map, one that is agreed on, that's something that's agreed on by many players in the competitive community. So we've got a good map to work with here between SSG and Luminosity. We've got both teams almost ready, so we should be able to get in as pretty soon. But there is one thing that we still have to go over. It's who do you guys think is that team that's going to take this victory? What's the community vote say?
I suspect this is going to be quite lopsided. 88% for Space Station to 8% for Luminosity. My goodness, unsurprising. 4% of you thinking it's going to be a draw.
Yeah. I don't think anyone's really surprised by that. Even the people who are voting for Luminosity have to expect that. Same thing for the draw. They're the world champion. They just won the world championship. You can't argue with that result. So, it's definitely a pretty, in most people's opinions, a pretty stacked match. But we'll see how it actually plays out as we load into the map.
Be fascinating to watch. What happens here is there's been some very intent typing that I don't know if everybody's been seeing. A funny little, I guess, message that was sent back and forth. Jarvis goes, imagine naming yourself after your last name and not some other cool name. And he said that, of course, to Bosco.
Yeah.
Irony, of course, is dead. Now, first ban is going to come out to Luminosity, and they're going to get rid of Nomad. That is an operator that has quite a lot of play, actually, on this map. And Gridlock can also be somewhat effective as flank watch with her track stingers. And, in fact, Gridlock has quite a high pick rate on Kafe, especially back in Europe. So it's going to be curious to see how much this Nomad ban affects the way that Space Station plays out, because of course with Luminosity banning Nomad, it's likely targeted more towards Space Station than it is towards themselves.
There's the Maestro. So, well, there's a lot of options here for Luminosity, to be honest. It could be an information operator that we see them lock up on, maybe one of the Mute Mozzie. Especially on Kafe, we see the Mutant Mozzie combo be so prevalent and so powerful here, but it's going to be Mira. So, all right. I honestly, Parker, I think that there's got to be a point at which teams need to let go of Mira as like a hard ban. And I don't know, like whenever she gets brought these days, because people aren't practicing around her and she doesn't set the meta anymore, she usually doesn't have much of an effect. But she's banned out. Obviously these teams know more than I do. They're probably seeing matches when they scrim, right? When they're seeing Mira unbanned and they're like, nah, not having any of that. But pretty standard defensive bans. Nomad dealt with for the flank. But of course, as you said, you'll see Gridlock probably at some point. Maybe not this first round from SSG, but she'll likely have a showing here on the attacking side.
You need to have some kind of flank watch, so other than your eyes or a claymore, so not entirely sure who it's going to be or if they're going to bring anybody. Right now for SSG, it's just going to be somebody doing the job and not an operator in particular. And while the Siege GG Top 10 Players of the Year was being brought out, there was some chatter among the Space Station guys on Twitter in regards to how competent Thinking Nate is as a flank watch and how frustrating he is from his adversaries in North America. Thinking Nate is apparently a brick wall when he's on flank watch, so expect him to do his job with the EMPs. This is going to be our very first match where Thatcher is actually available, so I mean, very similar to the Mira ban, Thatcher's ban rate is also skyrocketing, which is prompting teams to run the Maverick. So once Thinking Nate's job is done, all he's going to do is just hold on to that L85 and just intently wait for somebody to try to cross his path. There's more than enough fragging potential on SSG, and you're going to need it against a team like LG, who can be quite unpredictable and very aggressive against you.
So kitchen defense to start things off for Luminosity. Space Station looks like they want to address this from Bakery. They also have to pay mind to the rest of the building. Bosco's in though. Bakery not being held, it seems, by Luminosity. That's free real estate for SSG, and it will allow them to set up on that Bakery wall and start their execution into the site. They're going to start with the prep wall though, and that'll give them good flank watch on prep itself. No one's going to be pushing on the defense there. It would basically be suicide unless you've got a significant man advantage on the defense already.
A very common spot for the exothermic charge to go off on that one portion of the Bakery, and now here goes the other, waiting to see if there's going to be any denial. It's Jarvis that could be playing over there, but instead his fellow countryman and Canadian is going to be able to open that one up and burn some of the ADS charges that are seated over by prep. That's a bit of a mistake. He got very, very easy fodder for any defender if he hadn't bothered to duck back down. Down and go the flashes, and well, Jarvis can't really bandit trick if he's up on the second floor. Most of the front of kitchen has been completely vacated, and you might be able to go in and go for a plant, but you'll be getting watched, likely from above. 3 members of LG far enough back, as Rexon could get spotted through these kill holes if he's not careful enough. There's also yokai drones in effect with Jarvis, as well as Doodle playing above.
So this is clearly a full back strategy, a retake / let's hold it from above strategy. But Rampy's going to get the lead off kill. Yokai will disorient Canadian, and I've lost signal. Hyena does pick up faults. I'm back on. Canadian going for a plant. Gas canisters to deny, and he'll get pushed off. But there's still plenty of time for Space Station. Parker, you take it. I'm losing signal.
Rexon had typed before this match started, he said, let me be the first death. And well, mission accomplished. If you're Space Station, Rexon is, of course, the first person to go down. So 30 seconds left to go. Trying to distract from above is Bosco's. He hits a barricade. His teammates hoping to pull off his plant down below. His faults have been taken out. Canadian knows he's too low. Can't go for the plant just yet. They're going to need to clear out the remaining members of LG. We're nestled deep in the back of the site, and LG is being very patient right now. Their guns will come alive as Diffuser has been planted successfully, leaving Rampy in a 1v4. Make that a 1v2 very quickly. He pulls out his pistol. He's trying to make this a 1v1, and he'll do just that. No, he'll have to push up, and he'll fall. It's Hyena. Team killing Jarvis. And it's a 1v0 with an absolute shambles to stop this round in its tracks. LG with the easy counter defuse, and they've got it. Oh, a nice skin as well being run on the Echo from Hyena. And LG will take the very first round.
Big win there for LG. A little bit of a circus on that execution into the site. Very back and forth, as y'all saw. LG, though, guns coming alive from the anchors deep in sight, and Rampy put up a heck of a show himself, and an individual performance that was pretty impressive, but it just wasn't enough in the end. He tried to go for a rush in the 1v2. Maybe not the best idea there. So, the main points for that round, Luminosity holding from above. That was their primary way of defending on the, on the kitchen. Then they had some anchors further deeper in kitchen, but none of them were making it their priority or job to put pressure on Bakery. They were relying on those players above. Most of the players above weren't able to deny the push-in through the bakery wall. It was a pretty easy take into kitchen for SSG, but at that point, now you have to engage the people who are deeper into the site for Luminosity, and you're a little bit more exposed to those players that are above for Luminosity. So I like the strategy there for LG. That's my main takeaway. The execution almost worked for SSG because of Rampy's efforts, but just it wasn't enough in the end.
5 seconds to go.
So, what are we going to see from LG? Well, they're not going to go down to kitchen. They can't. It's locked. So instead, they're going to go to the middle floor. A lot of teams decide to just completely avoid that top bar cocktail defense. And instead, we'll defend up top as if it were a bar cocktail defense, but then we'll actually have the site situated on that second floor. Very similar to what we saw on Villa. It's a little bit of a buffer where the attackers have to endeavor to clear out the top floor faster than they would were that the place of the site. So down below, it's a reading defense, unsurprising. It looked like it was Jarvis playing up top, likely with Doodle, as that's how they like to roam together through the first round, and it sure seemed that way, especially with the bandit batteries that were on the wall. Jarvis will likely try to hang out up there as long as he can.
Top of red stairs getting opened up into piano. SSG can now use that as a platform to clear the top floor. Of course, that's not where the site is. A little bit of a different site selection here for Luminosity. Typically, you'll see the top floor played as a primary bomb site, but not so. It's going to be reading as the secondary for LG, and kitchen is the primary. SSG taking full control of red stairs. They can use this to good effect to attack any part of the building that they want. Red and white stairs being the two primary beachheads for most attacks on this map.
They have good control right now of piano, and it's going to continue with Rampy putting in great work. He picked up 2 kills the very tail end of that round and got a frag grenade kill to boot, so he had 3. He's going to continue to pad these stats, of which he is one of the most accomplished fraggers right now with an absolutely bananas kill-death ratio, which is exactly what you want when you're in his position. And even though you're playing very support-oriented operators, like a Buck, who isn't necessarily always your main entry op, you're still able to rack up tons of kills. Looked like a retake there from Doodle as he's joined at the hip by Rexon. A little bit more damage done by Rampy as he's very close to being able to walk into the site, but again, extraordinary patience from LG. This is a team that was known to be extremely feisty at one point, but they're not giving an inch to Spacestation.
Spacestation set up decently here. Like you said, they don't have a lot of ground that's covered, and they haven't even cleared out the top floor, as they've just determined. Hyena does get Rampy, so there goes one of your top performers for SSG. Meanwhile, there's just under 30 seconds to go in this round. The execution has to come now. Here comes the lifeline. Not checking your corners, though. Factor will eliminate Fultz after Bosco gets Rexon deep in the site. Bosco ate a lot of damage for that one, and after Doodle gets the C4, well, many kills will follow. Factor in a 1 versus 1, thinking it can either pick up his teammate or go for the plant. I'm not entirely sure what's happening, to be honest, but it looks like Factor is holding and spraying through the wall. Beautiful job there. Hey, don't know what's happening.
I've heard that a lot when watching these teams. Factor did indeed get the kill. He got both kills here. So excellent final moment by Factor. And I've got to say, I really do have to say this again. Space Station is known as a team that is maddeningly patient, and this is a compliment that's been paid to them by so many of their opponents across a large variety of regions. And it was actually their patience that was a big part of why they struggled against a very aggressive team like Ninjas in Pajamas, when Ninjas in Pajamas was dictating the pace of the round at the 6 Invitational just a month ago. SSG are being patient too. But you're not on defense. You don't have to worry about people coming to you. LG does, and LG are doing an excellent job of just sitting back and waiting and forcing SSG to commit errors in the final moments of a push. And despite the fact that SSG have gotten those opening picks, it really hasn't translated into much. LG has bailed themselves out of trouble every single time and ensured that just because you've lost one member of your team doesn't mean you lose the round with it. Yeah,
it's been a great effort from both teams, to be honest, as these rounds have come pretty darn close.
10 seconds remaining.
But Luminosity just getting that slight edge in the end for these 2 rounds. It's worth noting, Kafe is another one of those heavily defender-sided maps. You gotta take this with a little bit of a pinch of salt. It's possible, very possible, that Space Station will get just maybe 2 rounds, let's say, out of this first half. And they'll manage to turn that into a landslide on the second half. We don't know yet. We're not there yet. But all we can do is say, for right now, these rounds are coming down to the wire. Luminosity are edging out just barely over Space Station. So finally, we get to the top floor. Luminosity come to their 3rd site. Jarvis looking for a run out. This is very dangerous. I don't know if that door is even prepped, so he's not going to go for it.
2 successful holds for LG here on Kafe, a map that is still more defender-sided than it's not. And this is the first time that we're going to see it with Wamai and Kali available. Kali has not been played at all today in North America, Michael. Wamai saw some play in the very first matchup and was banned on Clubhouse. In large part, we speculated so that United could rain fire down upon any of the defenders with the Capitao pick. There's an opening pick, speaking of. It's going to come roughly a minute into this matchup, or a minute into this round, rather, with Jarvis taking out Thinking Nade. No EMPs and no flank watch from him, as he's gone from action as the Bandit has been continuously roaming.
A good pick there for Luminosity, and it looks like it's going to be another round for LG just off that start. But if there's any team that you can't count out right now, it's SSG. They can bounce back at any point in this round. Their focus right now is piano control. We'll see if they can manage to swing that. Wary of the angles that have been opened up by the defense. That's Bosco just pushing his way in. He's a lot of information using his gadget. So he's going to be able to call out, at the very least, the yokai drone that's positioned by the main bar.
It's a perfect opportunity now to try and stop somebody from tricking, but no, Jarvis isn't anywhere near close. He's not been interested one bit in stopping any of these breaching rounds from going off, or breaching charges, whether they be hard destruction or not. There tosses out a gas canister from Doodle, and then Hyena takes some damage as well. I don't know where the Echo was playing or how he was able to get some damage done to him, but it looked like he might have tussled with the thermite from long range. Down below is Jarvis. He's got the only kill so far in this round. 30 seconds left. He's got a C4 in hand. This could be a bad opportunity as Rampy is trying to flush out the smoke of Doodle. Canadian guns down Fultz by accident. That's not good, and the advantage will go to Luminosity. 20 seconds left, and you'll have to hurry. Down goes Doodle. He was spotted by Bosco. There's one from Rexon as he drops Canadian and retreats farther back in. Jarvis will now ascend towards the top of Red Stairs. If he goes unspotted, he can capitalize, and of course, there's no flank watch here. There's Rexon with one. It's going to come down to Hyena or Jarvis, but no, Rampy gets felled by the Echo, and say so long to SSG's chances. My goodness, LG now up 3-0 with the very first pick on that round. They are making Kafe look easy for them.
So 3-0, a perfect cycle. They'll go back to kitchen for the final round, for the 4th round, the second attempt at their kitchen defense. That last round looked much the same as some of the other ones we've been seeing. Early kills coming out for LG. A little bit of a stall for SSG. They attempt to recoup their losses. Some positions that look really good. Like, for example, they trapped the smoke inside of bathroom and they pinned him there, managed to get that kill eventually. But a lot of time being wasted. SSG putting themselves up against a wall in their time management, and then losing out because they have to rush themselves on the attack. Luminosity hasn't lost enough players for that to be viable, and then LG just wins some basic gunfights and then takes the round on time. Forced through a little bit of lethargy on the attack. And I'd say that while it hasn't been the worst attacks we've ever seen from Space Station, it hasn't been the best, that's for sure. I think that last round, a big part of it was losing your Thatcher early on. That's a serious blow. It's not only going to get rid of the flank watch and the EMPs, but a really active gun in someone like Thinking Nade. So we'll see if SSG is going to turn this around in the first half. But again, pinch us all, defense sided. It's worth remembering. If SSG doesn't get discouraged, they should still be in a great position to, well, not a great position, in a decent position to bounce back in the second half. And we've seen them have some pretty significant comebacks in recent history.
Yes, it's very, very recent history as well. Another kitchen defense for LG, and the take from Space Station looks very similar. We need to see once again if there's going to be any breach denial. No Kaid in play, no mutant play. It's all on the shoulders of Jarvis, but he hasn't seemed particularly interested in stopping any of that from happening. He's largely been playing off-site. He was playing shoulder-to-shoulder with Doodle previously, where the bandit will be, wherever the bandit roams. Is the question that will be answered, as Jarvis has largely been the person to take advantage of a lack of flank watch. I was thinking Nate, as we'll point out many times, the flank watch here for SSG. Providing he stays alive, then that EMP can do some serious damage, and drone work going in. Jarvis gets spotted, and the two members of LG playing inside a freezer also spotted. But that information is only good for the next 5 to 10 seconds at absolute most, and LG knows this, so they can be able to get away from the positions where SSG are going to be expecting them in.
LG just setting up their defense even more firmly from above, as you can see Doodle opening up more angles using a shotgun. And that top floor presence, or not top floor, but rather middle floor presence has not been dealt with from SSG. It's going to be a serious hindrance when they eventually, inevitably go for that site execution. Doodle just holding the angles and through prep. And there he goes! Bosco! Great reaction, great coverage. Expecting Doodle to peek that.
It's another toxic canister that's going to go out now as well. Just about a minute to go, maybe a little bit less. Jarvis still sight unseen. He has an opportunity to walk back in, and Bakery is going to be his intended location. Rexon with one as Factor gets taken out by Bosco. Jarvis will need to hit the shots, but he misses right now and can't do much against Thinking Nade. Canadian getting the diffuser down. He's very close, and it's a successful objective for Space Station as they hold a numbers advantage. Rexon found, figured out by Bosco, and then punished for it. A pre-fire from Jarvis on the Thinking Nade as they will battle to the death. Down goes Jarvis as he vaults on out. That Claymore will do the work that Thinking Nade's gun couldn't do as Hyena twists in the back of Freezer. And he's going to need to warm up, because right now he's ice cold. That's a great shot at a starting point, but the diffuser is about halfway, and he's got 3 very hungry Space Station members licking their chops, waiting to see. Will Hyena be able to do anything with it? No, he knows he's got one to the left. Peek out, but he can't beat the Thermite. It's Canadian who drops him, and Space Station finally wins their very first round here on Kafe.
Big kill there for Canadian. Good round from SSG. Second time's the charm. They read the setup from LG and they countered it. Every single moment accounted for. You saw the way that we had not only Doodle get shut down above, but everyone else pretty much holding on to the site as SSG went for the execution. That's partially because LG had a very similar setup to the first time they went to that bomb site. And partially because SSG is really good at adapting to their opponents. The question is, will that be repeated again? We are going to kitchen once more, which is an interesting decision for SSG. I don't know if, or rather LG. I don't know if this is the right decision, because once SSG kind of figures you out, it might be prudent to just change bomb site. It's possible, though, LG is going to show something different here, a totally new way of holding onto this bomb site. Guess we'll find out. But their operator selection suggests otherwise. So I guess we'll, yeah, like I said, we'll see. As LG sets up to try and kitchen one more time.
I really like that Space Station was able to figure out how LG was playing off-site and just essentially isolate them. And it pushed on into the site, not particularly fearing LG's return. Leaving Hyena inside of the freezer all on his own. His yokais were not particularly effective at all. I don't know what the comms were like for LG, but if you still have yokais up, how are you allowing Canadian to be able to get that plant off, especially if Hyena is as safe as he is? He's playing inside a freezer with nobody really challenging him. He got droned out about 40 seconds before the execute went down. It's very interesting to me that he wasn't able to pull that off. Like I said, maybe it was just that Bosco did his job and took out the yokais. Maybe they got taken out by the EMPs, and then when they fell to the ground, they got shot at. There's no way, unfortunately, for us to be able to tell if Hyena still had any yokais left outside of just simply seeing their logo, or their icon, rather, on the map. So, regardless, it's obviously not Hyena's fault that that went down. I don't want anybody thinking that's what I'm saying.
Yeah, no, it was a total team collapse for LG and a great execution from SSG, as you said, isolating the LG members and picking them apart as they went for that execution. A little bit of HP loss there from Bosco, as he gets on the drone a little too quickly, backing himself into the wall. He's going to drone his way in through prep. An interesting barricade on that prep doorway. Canadian will open the wall. This is all standard so far from SSG, nothing new. More curious about the setup from LG, as they've just lost on this bomb site. What are they going to change about how they hold it? Are they still holding from above? Are they going to be more aggressive and holding on to kitchen? Are they just going to let it slide away like they have been doing? Looks like they've got the roamers upstairs. They are, it seems, maybe bandit tricking the wall? I didn't quite see. But yes, indeed, they are bandit tricking the wall, so it's a little bit different. Jarvis will sit on that wall, trying his best to hold on to it. There is Thinking Nate, of course, with those EMPs, who can do something about that, but it's all about the timing.
Jarvis, like I said, has not really been interested in bandit tricking, and, well, I don't know if he's going to be able to get this one off. No, he gets out of there. He probably could have been able to save the wall, but timing is not on his side. His feet are spotted by the drone, and that barricade is actually working against LG right now. It was put up by Factor. I don't know exactly what the idea behind it was, but it's going to challenge this fight against Bosco, and that's a tough thing to do because Bosco so rarely misses. A nitro cell goes out, it does not meet its target, doesn't do damage the way that they wanted it to. LG still at full HP, while there's been a tiny bit done to Space Station. That's what we're looking at right now. 45 seconds left for LG to be able to just simply hang on. And, well, down goes Jarvis. He'd been spotted over by the very front cooking instruments inside of kitchen. He is no more. That's a good gun removed, and the newest member of LG will sit on the sidelines. 30 seconds to go. A retake is possible from Doodle, who's above, but it looks like somebody from SSG is up there with him, and he can get spotted out very easily. Yokai drone going in place. Rexon goes down. Canadian felled by Factor. The Wamai taking action into his own hands, and he is absolutely dropped by Thinking Nade. There's Hyena grabbing one of his own, but it's him against the world. Yet again, in a 1v3, down goes Rampy. Beautiful shot from Hyena. He just needs to go onto the Yokai, but he's going to get pinched. Looks for one, looking for the clutch, but at the last second, SSG wins it. Folt's a beautiful play as that timer hits 0. Amazing coordination from Space Station as Foltz looked like he might have missed, and Hyena comes so painfully close for Luminosity fans to being able to save the round.
That round played out almost the same as the last one. And I think that's what most of us expected going into it, because LG barely adapted anything from their previous defense. They had a very similar setup. And the only major difference is that Hyena gave SSG more of a run for their money. So good job, I guess, to Hyena. Bad job to Luminosity on their failure to adapt from what SSG showed them in the previous round. The execution from SSG came out fantastic. And despite coming close to failure there, SSG still looked mostly in full control of the round. One thing I really have to commend SSG on in particular is their call to rush Hyena at the end. They had two choices there. They could either consolidate their forces, try to go for a plant with only a few seconds left on the ground with an Echo in play and potentially Yokais on the ceiling that you might not be able to catch before they deny the plant. Or you could just rush them. And the reason I commend SSG, because we can't possibly know which is the right decision based on that situation, but what we can know is that everyone from SSG committed to the same decision. Not every team does that. Sometimes you'll be in a 4v1 and 3 people will rush the last guy while the other one tries to plant. And that one guy trying to plant against it, let's say it's in that same situation and the Echo stops that plant. And he wins the round because of that. That has happened quite a lot. So SSG not leaving it to chance, all committing to the same path and winning out the round as a result.
I like that you say SSG all committed to the same thing, because they buy into their same system. They and TSM have a system that both of these teams have fully subscribed to. I think Dark Zero has as well. But the one thing that I think really sets apart a team like SSG is that, especially on LAN, they tend to work incredibly well in sync, and it largely looks effortless. It's not effortless, but it looks that. A lot of that goes on to their coaching staff as well, as we give a lot of praise to these actual members, but both of these teams have a very adept coach. Of course, Virus is LG's, and then you've got Lycan spearheading those duties for SSG, though they've also got other people helping out, including Luke. I believe it's Sov that's with them as well. So,
yeah,
major props to these teams. And honestly, that's been one of the big things that has set Europe apart for a long period of time, was that the players bought into the systems. It was one of the EU's greatest strengths, and it's something that NA has taken a little while to catch up to, but now it is paying off very handedly, and I'd imagine you're going to see more of it. Sao Paulo finals, of course, canceled, a very sensible cancellation, but it would have been nice to see if anything would have come of NIP if they'd made it, or if whichever team came out of NA would have been able to put up the same performance that they did from SI.
Of course, with those finals being canceled, that means, oh, Jarvis on red stairs, pushing up, will get thinking nade. So, remember that brick wall? Well, it's been destroyed by Jarvis, at least in this round, and that's going to be one hurdle dealt with for the defense. Luminosity looking to end this half in a 4-2. But as I was saying, yes, I'll get to that later, actually. There's only a minute left in this round. Action's coming out. The top floor clear is the focus for SSG, and Rampy's going to land the nade onto Doodle before Rexon's My Charge can actually activate. That's a little bit of a delay that is going to cost Luminosity, and that's one of the downsides of using Wamai.
Beautiful shot from Rampy. We expect him to be able to land these, and, well, he's got the clearance that he needs up top, but he's going to translate down below. There goes Rampy to Hyena, very well coordinated as Fultz finds Jarvis, and both teams will trade out one. Back to a 2v2. Fultz and Canadian going up against Factor and Hyena. Three decently new comp members against one of the oldest in the game, the resident boomer, if you'd want to call him, in Canadian. Though I do believe Jarvis is actually older, but that doesn't help for the storyline here. A good frag from Factor on to Canadian, and it's Fultz against Hyena and Factor now. C4 will get tossed out. The Zofia doesn't take any damage, but he's going to need to go for a quick engagement, and the Pulse will win that one. How old are you? Doesn't matter. He's still got the worst gun in the game, as Canadian would say. That's a kill by Factor. He gets the very final two. Same spot, same room, same gun. History repeats itself, I guess. It's 4-2 for LG as we switch sides.
So, 4-2, solid half there for LG. Of course, they win the half after that scoreline. However, it's not over yet. This is a defensive-sided map, as I've been saying. So, they'll go to kitchen first for SSG. In that last round, the top floor clear was seriously hindered by the C4s from below and the roamers above. Managing to go toe-to-toe with SSG. LG, I think, had an even exchange upstairs, about an even exchange. And then when it came to the anchors and the attack onto the site, that's where SSG really fell flat. Now they get the advantage of going onto the defense, though. That was 2, maybe 3 shotguns firing off at the same time at the same wall. Pretty quick soft destruction for SSG. That's the advantage that you get with the second sidearm shotgun now added onto the castle.
It was honestly a huge buff for Castle as well. He can use those impacts somewhere else. He can impact trick now. He can do site remodeling after getting those up. He doesn't need to be too worried about anybody helping him. And honestly, I mean, you see how most teams play Castle. Those impacts will go next to his barricades. He can now put them somewhere entirely else. It gives him greater freedom to possibly roam, though you're not exactly always going to want to roam with the UMP, or even deny exothermic charges, X-Kairos, etc. with those nades.
So, kitchen defense first. This has been the same for both teams, clearly favoring the site. The castle's a little bit different, I suppose. It can be used to great effect on this bomb site, especially if you're playing primarily on the actual site's floor, a mostly horizontal roam. In this case, it's 3 people in the middle floor for SSG, so that's a pretty extensive vertical roam. They'll be doing something, I guess, a little bit different. Doodle spraying through the window, trying to catch someone. the Mozzie pest, look at that. That pest just there will deny one window and then waste a solid 10, 15 seconds maybe. Doodle could have already been droning, but now he's just getting to it.
This is what I said when we were talking about, was it Villa? Is that a single Mozzie pest or even a single mute jammer can completely deny a team's ability to get into a room for an extra 20 to 30 seconds. And that alone can just totally muck up an entire strategy that a team has set out in front of them.
Yeah, it's definitely a much more difficult situation for the attack. And especially when they lose drones like that, it's like they have to maneuver around a mute jammer and then it gets destroyed. It's indirect and it is serious delaying. Factor's gonna be able to get this wall open up. There's no bandit, there's no Kaid, there's only a mute. Double EMP was unnecessary, but better safe than sorry. Wall opened, and something's down. I think that's a Valkyrie cam. Was EMP'd for momentarily, and yeah, it's been spotted out now by the attack, so they'll be able to shoot it as they go in.
It's very important intel for LG to be able to play off of, as they are very close to being able to walk in. A nice 360 from Rex, and that'll be going in the montage, I'm sure, but not anymore. As Canadian guns him down from above, he might play support on attack, but on defense, he excels in that roam and elusive role, playing Vigil, playing Mozzie, playing Pulse, whatever have you. There's Rampy now engaged in a fight with Jarvis. It's Buckmain versus new Buckmain, I suppose you could call it that. Factor felled by Thicky Nade. The Space Station are looking to close this gap. They'll have to do so with Jarvis taking out Rampy, but Fultz trading off Doodle. Luminosity trail, and it looks like the defense are just going to have the upper hand here on Kafe. Final 30 seconds or thereabouts to go as Jarvis looks for a way on in. He's got his work cut out for him. A Space Station doing their best Luminosity impression by being as patient as ever. Nothing being given to Hyena. You hear 15 seconds. He gets absolutely splattered by Bosco. I wish we had seen that shot. Jarvis heading over towards the castle barricade. His position is given away. This is going to be a challenge for him. He doesn't know where his target prioritization is going to come from, and it's going to be over in coat check. Goodbye. Bosco gets the final 2 kills with the MPX in hand, and Space Station will take the round.
So SSG starting off the second half solid, winning their first round on defense. Curious to see where they're going to go next. It looks like it's going to be reading. This is the same exact site rotation that we saw from Luminosity in the first half. So they change it last second. No, they will not. That round didn't look like LG had a chance of gaining control at any point. I wasn't really detecting that they were going to be able to turn it into a win. They were too distracted with the players upstairs. And yes, eventually Jarvis did manage to win that fight and start moving towards the site, but that was already too little too late. They lost too many bodies upstairs, and then when it came to the actual site attack, they really didn't have much to work with. It'll be reading next. Luminosity will handle this differently. Curious to see how SSG does. What we saw from Luminosity when they went to reading were a lot of C4s and a heavy roam presence upstairs. Many C4s from below, one of them actually managing to get a kill for the defense. And that worked pretty well for Luminosity. SSG have potentially brought 2 C4s, and they have also brought a castle, which is going to be a lot of utility soak, probably put upstairs. Interestingly, one of those castles is going to go over towards the east balcony, the northeast balcony, cocktail balcony. And that means that you can rappel on east as an attacker and get in as long as nobody's playing on pillars. And you'd have actually a decent point of access to the top floor there, and an ability to create a hammer and anvil strategy for clearing the top floor. If LG reads that, of course, but that's just a small thing. It's an enabling castle. That's all that really matters.
As opposed to a debilitating castle.
Yeah.
A stalling, a distracting, a detracting.
Yes. It is a
all of those.
Yeah.
Yes.
There's good castles and there's bad castles. And that I don't know how I feel about that one.
There's long castles and there's short castles.
No, they're all the same size. Well, no, that's not true. I guess it's the big ones. So there are, yeah, there's long ones and short ones. There you go.
So you disagreed with me, thought about it,
okay,
and then agreed with me.
Technically speaking, they're all the same height, Parker. So I don't know.
There's wide castles and there's thin castles.
There you go. That's better. Yeah.
There you go. Okay, great. I'm glad that we could assess this after 20 seconds.
We have reached consensus, Parker.
Roughly the same amount of time that is wasted from a good castle barricade and or a mute or Mozzie working in conjunction with it. So,
well said.
The entry from from LG rather towards this defense of Space Station, which is actually a reading defense. Once again, Bar Cocktail not being in vogue right now. It has been defended one time of these 8 rounds. That's it. They obviously do not like it. And I said it gives you a good buffer. Doodle gets one, but there's Rampy from above to trade him off. Rexon with another. And these teams just snap their fingers, and with it, almost everybody dies. Down goes Jarvis. He's the buck player from above, and it's Thinking Nade inside of the site who's able to take him out. Rexon's taking a bit of damage too, but still we're back to a 3v3 in a hurry. A minute to go.
Well, there's still time for LG to recover, and they've got that top 4 presence in hand. 2 players upstairs, Diffuser in hand as well. So no massive problems for LG. I think they're going to come up with that lifeline from Rexon, but he opens up more angles. Light drones available to Luminosity, but Hyena's got 2, and he's going to try and use those to gather information for his team. He's got enough time to do so. The player in engine is going to be the serious problem for Luminosity. I think that's Rampy, but I'm not entirely sure who it is. We do know is he is going to be the player who will late flank over by engine. So it's not Rampy, it's somebody else entirely. Rampy, though, does get Factor, as Factor attempts to push into the bomb site. An excellent headshot, and that's plant denied already. 10 seconds left, and this is going to need to be a little bit faster. Luminosity answer back onto Rampy, so better late than never. Plant attempted, but it's going to be on 000, and here comes the denial. Hyena with great coverage. Will he get the second? It's going to be close, but the plant's down, so now a 1v2 for Bosco, and there's one. Can he find the second? And no is the answer. Hyena gets that last kill. Luminosity win their first attack.
Very impressive stuff from Hyena in the post plan, and Bosco coming within a hair of being able to take out the members of LG. LG will continue their march forward. They got the one frag that they one round rather, they really needed in order to put this closer to match point. Keep in mind that everybody thought Space Station was going to win. Everybody and their grandmother, 88% of people. Now, what happened with SSG there? Well, they got isolated over in the wrong bomb site. And while retakes are definitely possible, especially when it's a default plant that's happening near the clock inside of reading, you find that sometimes you just don't have a C4 at your disposal, you don't stack up correctly, and you can't really do too much with it. I honestly don't think that SSG knew the plant was going down in the first place. That's why they seemed to be a little belated when they got into the site. And at that point, the 2 members of LG were just stacked on top of each other. Nobody decided to go for the rotate into Laundry, so they were in a tough spot. And LG, especially with Hyena, all he needed to do was just sit and wait. And he was playing very safely by the walls that at one point were destructible, but are no longer. Additionally, there was quite a interesting fight that happened on that 3rd floor, but Space Station just, or rather LG, I keep getting them confused. LG just wasted so much time up top before they were able to say, it's clear, let's move in, let's get the plant down in Space Station. While they were doing a good job of wasting time, they couldn't get the frags I think that they needed and weren't aware of the rotate called in the final seconds of that round. So great IGLing by LG, whoever that was. I'm going to imagine Jarvis is probably doing most of the IGLing, as that's the role he tends to fill on a lot of teams, but it could still be, I believe Doodle helped out with IGLing when Slash was on the team, so not entirely certain, but regardless, good IGLing from LG.
Absolutely. Now, reading repeated from SSG. They will not change things up. That could be to their detriment. Could be that they felt they made a very basic mistake in that last round and they know how they want to correct it. And that would be a perfectly reasonable choice if that is the case. Flamer's going up on the flank watch. Not a great substitute for the Nomad, but, you know, it's better than nothing. With the top 4 control not fully established for LG, they're still going to need to push over towards Cocktail if they want to do that. And there's already a minute expended. LG's going to need to get a little bit quicker on this assault. Those 2 roamers from SSG holding out over by Cocktail in the white hallway, they're just plenty content to wait this out. And they know they can fall back through the drop-down whenever they feel too pressured. So there's not a lot of risk being taken by those players. And plenty of time already wasted.
Once again, your big crown jewel in your map control is going to be on that 3rd floor, and right now it seems like LG is largely allergic to that. They might actually just go straight for the 2nd floor, but no, they're in. 3 members are inside a piano. They're all stacked up. A C4 looks like it goes off. Either that or it was a frag grenade, and Doodle takes a little bit of damage. There's a mute on the board, as Thinking Nade loves those SAS operators, and the mute jammer, as you can see, is currently denying Factor's X Kairos from going off. Despite that, LG will continue to march forward. I suppose they don't really need those X Kairos. A little bit will open up just these tiny viewing angles, and that'll be it. Factor unsheaths the bearing 9, and with the down goes Bosco. The Mozzie will not be in play, and with it the C4 is likely gone to the grave as well. 40 seconds left, so you still got some time, as it looks like LG is pulling off the same rotate. However, it's going to be greeted as Fultz is very aware of this, and as the reading door goes down, he'll inch up ever closer. Another frag for LG. Space Station answers back. It's Doodle removed. That's the Ash, so very minimal utility outside of fragging that's lost from LG, which means that they're still in pretty good shape here, and they can begin to drop. But they don't have a ton of time to work with. There's still some stall potential for LG, and especially with plant denial from SSG as well, they can possibly answer back, but they'll trade out yet again, and every trade that happens is going to benefit LG. They're just a couple seconds away from being able to get match point against the world champions, and it looks like they're going to fail to do so. Space Station will hang on by a hair at the very end, as LG cannot grab that diffuser and get a plant down on time. We're close to being able to tie it up, and Space Station being on defense, that's going to bode well for them for the next couple rounds.
So the biggest things to note there is, number one, SSG did a great job on the top floor in multiple different instances. First instance being they delayed a lot from Cocktail. 2 roamers managed to waste a solid half of the round, just staying alive in Cocktail. And even when they had fallen back, LG was unsure they had control. Now, props to Luminosity. After those roamers had fallen back and they were still not sure if they had control, they still did work. They were getting picks elsewhere on the map on other parts of their attack. So you have to factor that in. Congratulations to Luminosity, that is impressive. But at the same time, the delay in taking that full control hindered their ability to pressure the anchors from above, and more importantly, it allowed for a late flank. I believe it was Rampy at the end there as the A who managed to get upstairs, late flank Luminosity, and pretty much single-handedly secure the round by denying killers as an avenue into the site. So, poor flank watch from Luminosity, despite getting the first flanker, and further, a poor clear of the top floor, despite being good at utilizing other avenues to the site, apart from the top floor, at the same time. And really just a good holdout from Space Station. They bring it one closer to a draw, well, not a draw, but an even round count.
I've been very impressed with Luminosity. I did not think it was going to be this close, if I'm being totally honest with you. I will share my opinion, and I will say that I don't think this is necessarily a championship hangover from Space Station, as a lot of people in traditional sports would call it. I think both of these teams have been quite good. We've had a couple rounds today, and we've had a couple matches today, where I think what ended up happening was the team that just messes up the least is the team that ends up winning, because there's a lot of errors that happen. We have not always seen peak Siege so far today. But in this matchup, I think that SSG are definitely playing a little bit below their potential, but LG are looking sharper than before. Now, is this just because it's Kafe? Is it just because of the way that the sides work on attack defense? We don't really know. I think we have to wait a couple more games to get a better feel for how LG is playing here, but the Jarvis addition and the loss of Slash doesn't really seem to have hurt the team all that much, as Luminosity has largely been in the driver's seat of this matchup and have been playing aggressive when need be and patient when need be. It's working out very well for them. And, well, patient where need be is not necessarily when Jarvis is on drone and gets caught by a run out from Canadian. The 2 countrymen will do battle, and the Valkyrie will get away better for it. Down goes the set of frag grenades, down goes all of that soft destruction, and with it, given that it is a defense of Kitchen on that first floor, the Bucks' home should be on the second floor to just wreak havoc and take away a lot of support that you would have as the defense, and now Space Station doesn't really need to worry about that, with the exception of maybe Rexon.
I think it's worth noting that if we're talking about maps, this is definitely Space Station's map. I mean, it's one of their best maps, period. They beat ESM on this map twice at the Invitational, and Dark Zero once on this map. This is where they preside. So they should be in a great spot to take the win. LG can still win this round despite being one man down. They're going to have an explosive success as they pour out of prep. Question is how. It looks like they're going to go for an impact rush through the barricade. C4 from above gives a new angle to Valkyrie, who will get that Zofia. Canadian, great awareness. But here comes the plant from Factor. Is anyone going to be able to deny? Doodle will get one on the coverage. Thinking Nade actually does deny that plant, but Hyena is going to get the refrag. It's the last one alive now, so he's going to have to get more than just a refrag, but 3 more to boot, and only in 20 seconds. Not going to be an easy task to complete. He'll also have to pick up the diffuser if he wants to go for a plant. Canadian above, holding angles. The last 2 anchors just waiting this out. They don't need to rush themselves. They'll just patiently wait for the round to end. Bosco gets the final kill. Space Station will even the round count, 5-5.
This may be a bit too patient for Luminosity there.
Maybe a little.
Maybe just a little bit too patient.
Add.
Now, what really went wrong in that round for them? Well, they weren't able to really establish good control of the front of Bakery. They weren't able to get themselves situated on that second floor the way they wanted to. The buck being taken out could have been a huge reason for that. It's hard as a viewer to not understand to understand the pressure that a good buck can put on you when you are very rapidly losing the ceiling above you, especially if you've got somebody working alongside the buck to be able to drone out that second floor and realize that you don't have to fear somebody flanking or taking an opportunity to catch you off guard. Jarvis's utility and his smarts in this game are a big part of why he was picked up by Luminosity, and I'm a bit surprised that he wasn't more in the action. He hasn't really been in that much action, and I mean, he's been at a Pro League for quite a while. The last match that he played in Pro League, if I remember correctly, was when he was with TSM in the fall. Prior to that, he only played a couple games with them. Prior to that, his last match in a real competitive sense was in Milan back in the spring of last year. He's only played, I think, about 5 or 6 matches of a Pro League caliber, if you consider DreamHack Montreal to be in that category, in almost a year. That is a lot of time for him to be out of this pro scene and for him to have to adapt again. And he doesn't usually play roles that have really nice stats, so for a lot of people, they could be seeing his addition to this team as being ineffective. I think it's way too soon to say that. But ultimately, I want to see more out of Jarvis right now, especially on this buck roll. Maybe not on Bar Cocktail. He's not going to be as integral here as he was in the previous round, but staying alive is a good start.
Yeah, I think it's step number 1, for sure. Then you can move from there. He's not had the worst performance so far of all the players on Luminosity right now. Of course, that would be Doodle, who's not had much to say this match. But, you know, sometimes you're just going to have matches like that. And I think it's about the integral nature of that soft destruction and where it's placed that raises the question there. The flank watch established by a Hyena. He'll put the drone up to be able to call out if someone's coming up from behind red stairs. This being a top 4 attack, you're going to start on top red, then you're going to go into piano, then you launch an attack onto the site. This is typical attack strategy on this map. A little bit of a slow attack from LG, I will say that. We're about to hit the halfway mark, and they've not really done anything just yet. That's definitely slow.
Both these teams have been very slow. I mean, we're now over almost an hour into this matchup. At least if my numbers are correct, we're at least closing in on an hour, and there's still 2 rounds to get played. So a little bit longer than we're anticipating, as many of these rounds do tend to go down to the final seconds. And you can't even really blame it on the meta, because as you can see, SSG's not running a Muta Amazi right now. There's been a couple rounds where we haven't really seen any of that droning be a major issue. So, you know, with that said, it's just that these teams obviously taking each other seriously, and the one thing that needs to be kind of beaten over the head of certain people is that for the teams that didn't play an Invitational, they've had 2 months, if not longer, to be able to start strategizing for this phase of Pro League. And it's showing right now from a lot of these teams, bringing things that we haven't seen and running with compositions that we're not used to them running. Now, there's been a trade-off of kills. Both Rexen and Rampy are removed as some significant damage is being done to LG. As you can see, Doodle, Factor, as well as Jarvis all low on HP. Thinking Nate is there. He's a one-man wrecking crew. Say goodbye to the Luminosity squad as he finds 3 massive kills. And Fultz will find the very last one onto Hyena. Space Station storming back, and this come from behind victory is all but theirs. They just need one more round, but a big 1 point for them to try and distance themselves from the rest of the pack, or at very minimum, try to catch up to Dark Zero ahead of them.
That is the main goal, of course. They find themselves in third, just under DZ. But if they do win here, they'll put themselves at 14 points, which is 2 points behind Dark Zero, who earlier in the day had a bit of a rough go. Now, or actually, wait a minute. Let me just double check that. No, yeah. It'd be 2 points behind. So, that round, Luminosity, just absolutely, they were waiting for something, and I'm not sure what. Maybe they were waiting for Thinking Nade over by Pixel to destroy them, which is what happened. It ended up being a really one-sided affair thanks to Thinking Nade's position at Pixel and his ability to win his gunfights. Now, to be fair to Luminosity, a lot of them were on low HP. Thinking Nade got, I think, 2 kills there, where he only needed to land a single bullet. So, yeah, he's capable of doing that before anyone can react to him. That's typical stuff. The biggest problem isn't necessarily their inability to win a gunfight against Thinking Nade in that last little bit there. It's mostly the setup from Luminosity. The slow nature of it. The way that they were coming into Piano at about, a minute, 45 seconds left? That's not enough time. You can't actually commit a full assault with that little amount of time. And, I mean, if you do, it's going to be a rushed, haphazard assault, which is exactly what we saw. Because of that rushed nature, because of that haphazard nature, well, I mean, Thinking Nade went undroned. He held his position and he pushed into it because he knew he had the capability of doing that. There was not enough information gathered by Luminosity. There was not enough coverage by Luminosity. I don't know. It was probably the worst pack we've seen from them so far, and it's at the worst timing possible.
The inability to shake an opponent is something that, or the inability for them to shake you is, let me start over. Hold on a second here.
You got this.
The inability of teams to shake them is a hallmark and a major statement of how SSG plays. There we go. I got it.
Nailed it, dude.
I nailed it. I'm so proud of myself. Anyway.
Good job.
It's one of the reasons why they have been a consistent team, and I'm still. There's going to be a lot of people who think that we're being, I think, a little bit too charitable or too favorable to SSG, and I don't think that's the case. Really, if anything, I'm more impressed with the way that LG has played on this map than Space Station. I think that if you look just based on raw numbers and on paper, SSG should have been able to put this one away on a map like Kafe a while ago. The only thing that really worked against SSG is the fact that they didn't start on defense. That was, I guess, their one main issue, is that they were kind of trying to roll a ball up a hill for the first 6 rounds, and LG did quite a number on them by running up 4-2. But I'm definitely way more favorable to the way that LG has played, and I'm more impressed, if I'm being honest.
Yeah, I mean, they're breaking more expectations, that's for sure. And by the way, for those of you wondering, the reason why Luminosity have been so slow on their attacks is because they continue to do that thing on the roof where they match up their IQ and their Thatcher, throw EMPs, and destroy electronics from the roof without taking any risks. I understand that, but while they're doing that, everybody else should be doing other things. In this case, Jarvis has been single-handedly, solo, entering the top floor, and he's actually going to take some massive risks and lose out in that risk. He's going to actually, the entire team is going to lose out. It's a 1 versus 5 as Rexen gets his first kill all of a sudden. So Luminosity, they get into the building, but they're all dead as a result. It's going to have to be Rexen to find an ace if they want to take this any further, if they want to get that 1 point. Here comes the stun, shotgun in hand of the smoke, but it's not enough. There's almost 3 for Rexen, but at least 2. The Valkyrie gets away down, could be picked up, but there's no one near. So only Bosco and Thinking Nade for Rexen to find. He's in a decent to clutch position, looking for the 4th. And it's not gonna happen. Space Station secure the match. And yes, it was close, but they get their 3 points.
Only a couple shots needed from Bosco, and what a comeback from Space Station. They've pulled off a better one in the last month, that's for sure, but still, they're able to get the points that they need, and 3 big points to try and chase down Dark Zero and TSM.
They're getting close. As I stated earlier, they'll now be 2 points behind Dark Zero, so that is within punching distance, and they can work that. If Dark Zero has any more major trips through this season, then SSG, I'm sure, will capitalize on that opportunity.